Alrighty, good morning everybody, and welcome to another, I guess, Kano Tryharding Modern. I don't know, we're been out of practice with the intro, so I saw that Magic Online was having an all-access pass for a couple days extended because of some downtime they had unexpectedly. I've not had time to play really since my vacation, but I figured, I don't have the One Ring, so I might as well play a League of Tron while I have access to it. I have 2 copies, I don't have the required 4, and I don't have the money to spend on it at the moment. So with the All Access Pass, I was like, let's run a League of Modern, see what happens. So I picked a random list out of like the top 6 entries or whatever on MTG Goldfish, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised that it seems fairly stock for what I would think Tron is. It's basically, it's a 17 lander as opposed to what I was comfortable running, which was 18 way back before I stopped recording. We've got Dismembers in the main again. We've got O-Stones. Obviously, new contender since I've played is the One Ring, which is very powerful. The other thing that I'm noticing is there's no Karn 7 in this list, which is both surprising and unsurprising to me at the same time, because, I mean, if you've got the One Ring, odds are you're going to draw into your other threats very quickly. I imagine that this helps against your Ghost Quarter effects, because you're going to be drawing your redundant lands really quick if you actually resolve this. Plus, it's effectively a threat, even though it's not a threat at all in this deck, just because of how many cards it's going to draw you. Playing against the One Ring in Modern has been very interesting for me. Let's see. Other notable things, we're pretty much maxed out on stars and spheres. We're running 7 out of a possible 8. 2 relics in the main, 2 warping whales, Ugin. I like the fact that Ugin 8 is in this deck, because Ugin 8 is effectively an all-is-dust that will also win the game after you cast it, basically. So you cast an all-is-dust and then you lightning bolt your opponent to death. Alternatively, just uptick him twice and then win. Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, glad to see him back, because if Tron can't cast a 10-mana threat, then Modern is too fast. Out of the side, we've got a fairly standard Wishboard, plus 2 Veil of Summers. There's, since I last played, Haywire Mite as an inclusion, and it looks like the 3rd Wurmcoil Engine, and we still have a Liquimetal Coating. And the cat is now upset for some reason or other. So I apologize for any loud meows that you hear. My fiance, now that we are engaged, is currently out doing some errands, and we were just out to breakfast this morning. We went to a local diner in town, and the animals were quite upset that we had left, even though we were gone for like maybe 20 minutes. And so I imagine the cat is quite displeased that her mom, my fiance, is not home, after not being not home. Oh, hello! You've decided to actually grace my desktop. You might be able to see a tail wagging back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and pause until we get started here. Alrighty, welcome to round 1, everybody. I should mention, it has been a long time since I played Tron. I did try with one list that I kind of cobbled together before the all-access token, and I only had 2 One Rings, and the list was kind of bad, and I'm not confident with how it turned out. This one, we've got a Chromatic Star and a green source, and we can dig. We've got a Warping Wail, 2/3 of Tron. This hand is quite reasonable, but I think we can do a little better on 6, possibly. 2 towers, Sphere Scrying. I think I will keep this, because having the redundant tower is nice. Obviously, if it was another Tron land, we would have just natural Tron on turn 3 if we could cast the Sylvan Scrying off of Sphere or Star. I think I'm going to keep this and put back Relic, because this gives us 2 draws to try and find the 2nd Tron land for turn 3 Tron. Actually, 3 draws to find the 2nd Tron land for turn 3 Tron. And then, obviously, tutor for the 3rd. So hopefully, in those 3 draws, we get a Tron piece that is not tower, and a threat. We could use Ballista. Ballista is reasonable, but... Okay, Okay, so we start with Tower into Star. Pass turn. Opponent also mulligan to 6, so it'll be interesting to see what they play. Polluted Delta. Opponent fetches Polluted Delta, finds a Steam Vents. And plays a Ragavan. Okay. So there is some possibility that we just play Ballista to kill Ragavan. Opponent is bobbling to see what our top deck is. So they're going to pass, unless they have another bauble. Okay, we untap, they draw a card, then we draw a card. Okay, we draw Dismember. So, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack Star for green, see if we draw another Tron land. If we do, then I'm going to cast Scrying. If we don't, then I will play the Tower, Dismember, and play the Sphere so I have green for Scrying again. Because I feel like our opponent might be relying on Ragavan to accelerate their mana. So if we have the opportunity to kill it, that would only be second to actually assembling Tron. So we did not draw another Tron land, unfortunately. So we're going to play another Tower. We will play a Sphere with the floating mana. And let's go ahead and Dismember Ragavan. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. So now we have to worry about counter spells. So opponent plays an island and passes. We untap. We draw a Sphere. So let's crack Sphere for green. We draw Dismember. Alright, let's try and cast a Scrying. This, like, 100% gets countered. Yeah, okay, Spell Pierce. That's fine. Every turn our opponent doesn't play a threat is another turn we're just closer to drawing Tron. So opponent is going to start off with an Expressive Iteration. See what they exile. They're probably digging for land here. So they found a Spire Bluff Canal, and they play it. And they pass. So we untap. We draw another Karn. So let's play Chromatic Sphere. Opponent might have another Spell Pierce. Okay, they do. That's a little unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. We still have access to a Dismember. Opponent is probably trying to line up threat plus access to counterspell. I've not really played, like I said, I'm out of practice, so I'm not 100% what their deck list looks like. I feel like they're probably still playing Counterspell. I can't imagine they've switched to exclusively Spell Pierce and Stern Scolding or whatever. But if they're playing a 2-mana Counterspell, they're playing actual Counterspell. It's looking like this is a Murktide. Okay. And it is a 6/6, so it is out of Dismember range. And they play a Ragavan alongside it. Alright, we untap. We draw Power Plant. So we play Power Plant. This is really unfortunate. So we can kill the Murktide if we do the full Dismember and shoot it with Ballista. Or we can just Ballista Ragavan. We're throwing away so much to do that, though. Any land gets us to Karn. I mean, we could just play Ballista on one. I don't know if... hang on. Let me actually look up a recent Murktide list, because if my opponent is playing Force of Negation, that does change what might be the optimal play pattern here. So opponents... Let's see, most recent lists, looks like they're playing one Force of Negation in the main pretty regularly. Not all of them are, but some. Okay, so that's pretty low chance. If they're not playing a lot of Force Negations in the main, it's a lot higher value to Dismember on our turn this Murktide Regent, and then just kill it. They have used 2 Spell Pierces, but they're probably going to have a lot of counters, so we're just going to do this. We could have tried to do it on their turn, where we like block the Ragavan with the Ballista, and then Dismember the Murktide. But the problem then becomes, if we run into a counterspell, it's really bad, because we end up paying 4 life to Dismember into taking a hit from a 6/6, and all we did was fog a Ragavan for all of those resources. So, opponent gets a Sylvan Scrying out of the way for us off the top, which is good, because we don't have green mana to cast it. We really want to draw a land. If we don't hit a land, we want to draw like an Expedition map. Alright, well, it's a map. So let's play a map. Opponent has a counterspell. Alright. So it's a good thing we didn't try to Dismember on our opponent's turn. Opponent attacks us with Ragavan. We go to 8. They exile a power plant. Alright, well if we can rip a mine off the top, that would be pretty good. Opponent plays a bauble. Bauble's our top deck. Plays an island. We untap, they draw a card, then we draw a card. It's an Ancient Stirrings, so we can't do anything, we just pass. Opponent knows what we drew. Okay, they play Dragon's Rage Channeler. They attack us for 2. No blocks. We go to 6. They exile a Wurmcoil Engine, which they can cast off the top. They don't cast the Wurmcoil Engine, so they definitely have a counterspell. We draw an Oblivion Stone, and we're going to take 5 and go to 1. Okay, I guess in the event that my opponent doesn't have a burn spell, and we draw exactly mine, we can stay alive for a turn, but I'm pretty sure they run Bolt, or like a Spike Field Hazard or something. They hit an Ulamog off the top, so that's not the land we were hoping to draw. They pass, we untap, we draw Warping Wail, but it is far too late. So, okay. Well, we got to turn 9, we didn't get to Tron, so that's pretty much when we were guaranteed to lose anyway. I'll bring the Veils in because I feel like a lot of their counterplay for us is going to be counter spells. Let me look at the modern deck list again really quick. Okay, so it looks like they're going to have Magus of the Moon, and they're going to have more counter spells. I don't think I really have any sideboard options for this other than the Veil of Summers. The relics are still relevant. Warping Wail sort of is, because it can hit Ragavan or a Dragon's Rage Channeler without Delirium. So I'm trying to think about what we would take out of the deck for this. This is a little bit tricky. Wurmcoil Engine feels like probably our most fragile threat. Like if it were to actually resolve, it would probably win us the game. The problem is it might be our worst threat to play off of Tron, and it is the least resilient until it's on board. And our opponent does play Dress Down, so I actually think we're going to take the Wurmcoils out for the Veil of Summers. I would like to play first. So one thing I want to call out with this deck is this deck only plays 4 green sources other than the stars. It's got 1 Boseiju and 3 forests. Previous lists I played the Force of Vigor, so they ended up playing a lot more green cards, and because of that they played Yavimaya. Yavimaya might be a liability in the current meta. I just don't know. But, okay, I am going to keep this. One of the things that does make Veil a lot worse is, actually, we're going to put back the forest. One of the things that make Veil a lot worse is the lack of green sources, because having to leave a star up actually leaves you quite vulnerable, as opposed to like just having green in your mana base. So I kept this hand. I put back the forest because keeping the second map, if my opponent is playing Force of Negation, there's a really high chance that they will Force of Negation a turn 1 map, and we would then be off of Tron for potentially a long time. Okay, it resolved. Opponent also mulliganed to 6. But that was why I kept the second map over the forest. Opponent starts with a Ragavan. We draw Sylvan Scrying. I think what I'm going to do here is just Warping Wail Ragavan, because their shield's down right now. With our opponent mulliganing, if they end up having to use something like a Force early, and it's like I said, they may not even be playing it, but some of the lists I saw did. If they have to use it so early, it becomes massively advantageous for us because they mulliganed. So they're like only delaying us at the cost of so many of their resources. So it depends on what they put into the grave with Dragon's Rage Channeler, but I don't think they can get to Delirium. Opponent is representing a Spell Pierce. They did not... They topped whatever they surveilled. So we untap. They draw with Mishra's Bauble. And we draw Karn, Great Creator, which is excellent. So let's crack Expedition Mate, get ourselves a tower, play the tower, and I am like 99% sure my opponent has Spell Pierce and not Stern Scolding, so I'm going to order this by playing map first. Then I'm going to throw down a Ballista on one and shoot this Channeler. So I could have tried to stick, and there's a reasonable argument that I should have tried to keep the Walking Ballista alive and just ignored the Channeler for a little bit. To just put a bunch of counters on it and then use that to win the game. Because now my opponent is representing counterspell mana. And maybe I should have done that. We'll see. So let's go ahead and crack map first. Because we have Tron, we could go for a Blast Zone here in case our opponent draws another small threat. Boseiju doesn't really help. Having the Forest might be nice because we can cast a Sylvan Scrying. I'm going to take the Forest in case we draw one of our Veils. So I'm going to play the Forest and then basically act like I have a Veil of Summer to try and resolve this Karn. We are playing around Spell Pierce by having 2 mana available, but it looks like our opponent has actual Counterspell. Okay, that's fine. So then we're going to go ahead and Sylvan Scrying. And I'm going to just take another tower here. So maybe I should have just kept the Ballista down and tried to pump the counters on it. Typically, the issue I've seen with Dragon's Rage Channeler, though, is they fill their graveyards so fast with like a Cantrip and a Spell Pierce and then a Bauble that they get access to so many resources, and then the Dragon's Rage Channeler becomes a bigger threat, that not dealing with it immediately in the situation that I dealt with it in becomes a massive problem. Still not up to date on all the play patterns, so maybe that was wrong, but we'll see. Okay, opponent goes for Murktide Regent. It is only a 5/5, so we can Dismember. Okay, we're going to play the tower. Let's just do this now. Okay. Go ahead and pass. And that was to play around basically a counterspell. Now we're just hoping to wheel into any other large threat or the One Ring. Hopefully our opponent taps out for like another, not another Murktide, but uses enough of their mana that, you know, we don't have to worry. So opponent plays a Ragavan. They're playing scared. They're representing counterspell mana. So let's go ahead and Ancient Stirrings. This is probably counterspellable. Okay, they didn't. That's a really weak Ancient Stirrings. So let's take an Expedition map, rest of the bottom in order. Play map. Let's go get Blast Zone. And play Blast Zone. So obviously we were hoping to hit a threat there, and with me taking 2 Wurmcoils out, probably wasn't the best odds for us to actually hit a threat there. But our opponent's playing like they have Counterspell, otherwise they would have just dashed Ragavan. I'm going to blow up Blast Zone here. I don't want them to hit us because I don't want them to gain the treasures. They're kind of behind on mana, which tells me they have a bunch of stuff in hand. But, okay, so we draw Ulamog. I guess that means we just run out an Ulamog. We can take out their red mana and... Alright, we win the game. Perfect. Do I want any changes for Game 3? Game 3, I think I'm going to drop an O-Stone and bring a Wurmcoil back in. This is probably the configuration I should have gone with for Game 2, but I wasn't 100% on it. Like I said, I'm a little rusty. Trying to get back into this. And it's been a long time since I played Modern, but I am glad to see that Tron has not changed that much. It's also interesting because I saw that Daybreak Games was actually releasing a large chunk of Modern data, which was kind of weird, because I know Wizards has been kind of suppressing that, I think. And so I think the meta numbers that came out recently were more accurate or more complete. I was reading something about it, but I don't remember now because that was a few days ago. Anyway, okay. So this hand, we've got a map, we've got a Stirrings, we've got Chromatic Star. We're on the draw. We have Dismember as well. I think I'm going to mulligan. Okay, this is a little bit better. We can keep this hand because we have access to Dismember or map turn 1. We have access to Veil plus Dismember if we want to force through a Dismember. We can cast a Scrying. So what do we put back if I was going to keep this? I don't think we can put back the One Ring. The One Ring plus Veil of Summer is also very nice. I think I have to put back Sylvan Scrying as it's just like the worst tutor. So we're going to do that. We're going to keep this hand and put back Sylvan Scrying. So, with the One Ring, one of the things that is different about Tron is... So Green Tron was built basically to assemble Tron as fast as possible in a proactive game plan and slam a threat. And for the longest time in Modern's history, if you were playing Green Tron and you stumbled and you did not assemble Tron, you were going to have a bad time. Because all of the threats that you could play were 6, 7, 8, 10 mana. With Karn Great Creator's printing, I dismembered the Ragavan. I just didn't want my opponent to accelerate ahead on mana because it makes their counterspell so much better. We have Veil now, so we can protect like a map. But with the One Ring and Karn Great Creator being 4 mana, it's not as bad for your average Tron player to not hit Tron on turn 3. So, in that regard, the deck, despite being built to do one thing and one thing only, is a little more resilient if it doesn't happen. It's a very long and roundabout explanation for it's okay to not Tron on turn 3 all the time in Green Tron, because the cost of the threats have come down. So, alright, opponent is digging hard. They bolted us on their end step, so it looks like they're trying to set up for Murktide. We could just Veil of Summer here, because they've cast Preordain. And I might actually do that, because... Okay, this is looking like a Murktide. Okay, I am going to Veil of Summer, just to draw. Ancient Stirrings is pretty good. And the reason that I did that was, we got a little extra information. We still have the other Veil of Summer if we need it. But this potentially lets us set up for a more accurate Expedition map. Okay, so we will have Tron on turn 4. I'm going to Ancient Stirrings now, and I'm going to map on my turn. And the reason I'm going to do that, do they play Tishana's Tidebinder? I feel like they must. That has to be an option for them. The card is very good. Really. I'm looking at like just clicking through lists really quick, and I'm not seeing it anywhere. I feel like they must play it at some level, but maybe they don't. The reason that cracking map on my turn is so much more interesting to me is because if they did play Tidebinder, that could really save me. I'm going to go ahead and activate Ancient Stirrings, though. Ceaseless Hunger, I'm going to take over Great Creator, because we're going to follow up like the One Ring with Ulamog here, and it's going to be dandy. Rest we'll go ahead and put to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and crack this for mine now. The other reason that I'm comfortable doing that is if they do have a like Stone Rain or a Spreading Seas, they're going to hit Tower, and we already are holding a redundant Tower. So I feel like this is a little bit safer. Okay, opponent casts Expressive Iteration. They're probably trying to make a land drop here. Okay, they exile a Ragavan. And they just hard cast it. Interesting. And they play an island. So they don't have a counter spell, it seems. They hit us for 5, we go to 8. We untap. We draw Oblivion Stone. That is tempting to just deal with the threats rather than cast the One Ring. Okay, so hang on, let me do some math here. We have exactly 8 mana. We can cast Oblivion Stone with 5 mana left over, and our opponent can Spell Pierce if they want to. Or if they have a Spell Pierce. That would take us to... We'd have to pay for the Spell Pierce if we wanted to keep the O-Stone, which would leave us 3 mana left over, and we would take 7 on the swing back, plus probably a Bolt, and we would be dead. We could cast Oblivion Stone, let them counter it with a Spell Pierce if they've got it, then cast the One Ring, and we have protection until next turn. And then next turn we're going to play an Ulamog with Veil of Summer backup. I feel like that's the sequencing, because if Oblivion Stone resolves, I'll probably just activate it. So we cast Oblivion Stone. I'm expecting a Spell Pierce, because I think my opponent will recognize that even though Spell Pierce wouldn't counter the Oblivion Stone, okay, they have Force. What did they pitch? Subtlety. Force pitching Subtlety. Yeah, this is fine. For the same reason. This is actually better than our opponent having a Spell Pierce. So let's go ahead and cast the One Ring. And go ahead and draw an extra card. All right, let's pass the turn. So we have protection, so we've fogged their creatures for a turn. Yeah, like Force is really powerful, but in a matchup like this where every resource matters, losing an extra resource is super painful. Okay, we untap, we lose a life. We draw Karn, Great Creator. So let's go ahead and play a tower. Cast Ulamog, and... Alright, opponent scoops. We get the match. That's match 1 in our favor. Glad to see Kano still got it. I'll see you guys in round 2. Alrighty, welcome back. We are in match 2 of 5. So round 2. 2/3 of Tron. We have a Dismember and a Karn. We're on the draw against an unknown opponent. This is a lot of lands. I think I'm going to keep this one. We have so many cards we can draw. Like, practically every card in our deck is a good draw from this position. Alright, we're getting Thoughtseize, so this hand becomes a lot worse. Kano pro tip. Your opponent can't Thoughtseize any cards out of your hand if you keep 7 lands. So opponent takes Dismember, we draw Expedition Map, which is excellent. So let's go ahead and start Power Plant into Expedition Map. Opponent untaps their Concealed Courtyard, plays a Godless Shrine, shocks, and gets a Tide Hollow Sculler to take our Karn Great Creator. Alright, so we're against some kind of like Hate Bears type deck, it looks like. So they probably are a Leonin Arbiter deck. So let's go ahead and get Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. I'm just going to go ahead and search immediately. I'm going to play a Stoneforge Mystic. Probably revealing Kaldra. There's Kaldra. Alright, deck. We just need a Tron threat off the top, please. The One Ring, I believe, counts. Let's go ahead and cast the One Ring. Gain protection from everything. Draw an extra card. Another The One Ring. Perfect. So pass to our opponent. Opponent plays a Plains and passes. We untap. We lose a life, go to 17, and we draw Karn, Great Creator. Let's go ahead and draw a couple extra cards. We get a Chromatic Star and an Urza's Mine. Okay, let's see. We got 9 mana. What's going to be the best counterplay for this Kaldra Complete here? What do we wish for? We have too many lands in our hand for Ensnaring Bridge to be good. If we wish for Pithing Needle, that just forces our opponent to activate. That doesn't do anything. We can wish for something to just set up for next turn, like a Sundering Titan, to take out a bunch of their mana. The problem is we don't really have an answer for Kaldra other than Haywire Mite. Okay, we're going to start by playing and sacking a star for green. Because the difference between 9 and 8 mana for us is basically the same with what we're currently holding. So let's see if we can't reveal just a little more information. Okay, another tower. We're back to 9 mana. Okay. Yeah, let's... Oh, that doesn't work. I was going to say, let's Karn and wish for the Haywire Mite. But the problem with that is the green we have is just floating. Oh, unless I play the forest. Because I don't have to play the tower this turn. What is best here? We might just play the One Ring and set up for something else, maybe? 5, 6, 7, 8. We could play Karn, wish for Sundering Titan, then play the One Ring, I guess. Kaldra is only a 5/5. We have too many cards in hand. We're currently at 8. We could play 3, which would take us to 5. Power greater than the number of cards in our hand. We can't get rid of quite enough. Let's go ahead and cast a new One Ring. Okay, we'll keep the new one. So we have protection this turn. Draw again. Ancient Stirrings. So let's go ahead and play Karn. This Karn is absolutely going to die, but I think we're going to wish for Haywire Mite and then just keep it in hand. It's either Haywire Mite or Sundering Titan. Problem is, Titan versus Kaldra, Kaldra wins. Although we don't have any basics out. There's a little bit of a confounding variable in the form of this Ancient Stirrings that we're holding. Oh, we have Dismember in our deck. Does that change the math? That's why our opponent Thoughtseize Dismember at the beginning. We're going to have 12 mana next turn if we want it. I think I'm just going to take the Sundering Titan. This might be a mistake. We'll see. That might have been my only opportunity to get an answer for Kaldra. I completely forgot that Dismember will kill Kaldra. Opponent has a Not Dead After All. They then push Tide Hollow Sculler, giving us back the card they took, which is Karn, Great Creator. Wait, what? Oh, we have protection from everything. Okay. So opponent does not get to target us with Tide Hollow Sculler. I guess that's really good. Opponent scoops. Get the shame concede. Okay. So we can bring in Veil of Summer to counteract the hand hate. The problem is Veil of Summer is much better versus counter spells than it is versus hand hate, because hand hate is typically proactive and powerful. So our opponent is probably playing Grief if they're playing Not Dead After All effects. They're playing Tide Hollow Sculler, they're playing Thoughtseize. So the problem is our opponent is going to be on the play, they're going to cast it turn 1, whatever their hand hate spell of choice is, and we are going to be holding a Veil of Summer, and we're going to look very dumb when they take a threat and we just have a useless Veil of Summer. Not to mention, if we're trying to use this early, it means we have to be off of whatever our Tron game plan is, so I actually think it makes our mulligans worse. So I'm not going to bring it in versus this opponent, and we'll see how that goes. Typically, Veil of Summer is better in a control matchup of some kind, where the game is probably going to go late, because then you can like start stacking up Veils in your hand. And I'm not saying that with this specific list, because this specific list only runs 2. This hand's okay, but we can definitely do better. Yeah, okay. Let's just keep Tron, right? We'll put back a tower, and actually, we'll put back Scrying. So short of Evoke Grief, Reanimate twice, or, you know, get 2 Grief triggers, I mean, our opponent can't take both maps. My initial thought was put back a tower, that way if our opponent does do something with Grief on turn 1, we have access to the 3rd tutor, because then we can, like, Boseiju and then play Sylvan Scrying, but I'm not 100% sure that was better than this. But, I mean, if our opponent doesn't have turn 1 hand hate, it's great. And you can see my meaning here that, like, opponent, if they had a hand hate spell, Veil wouldn't have helped us, and we would have looked kind of silly still holding it. So we'll go ahead and play Power Plant. Pass the turn. If our opponent's got a Thoughtseize now, best they can do is the One Ring, which is good. Don't get me wrong. Opponent playing the One Ring off of a Dauthi Voidwalker would be strong, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for us. It's not like we're holding an Ulamog. I completely forgot that Dauthi Voidwalker existed, so I'm glad that this hand kind of naturally played around it. Opponent takes the One Ring. Are they just going to cast it? Looks like it. Okay. Opponent casts the One Ring, so they have protection from everything, and they draw an extra card. So opponent is now passing. Let's go get Urza's Mine. We untap. We draw Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. Okay. Let's go ahead and play Urza's Mine. And play Expedition Map. And we're going to crack Expedition Map. And I think the correct pick here is to take a Blast Zone. I could have gotten another redundant Tron piece. I'm not doing that because I have Boseiju into Sylvan Scrying, and I don't think I'm going to be casting or playing Boseiju against anything my opponent is doing. Blast Zone leaves me an answer that they can't Thoughtseize that might be able to hit like a random 1-mana threat right away. Or like a Pithing Needle on a Karn Great Creator, or something like that. Okay. So they did have a Vindicate for our Power Plant, but we just draw a Power Plant like a god. So let's go ahead and play the second tower, and just kind of feign that, oh no, our poor little Tron, you blew it up. We don't have it. You're going to be drawing so many cards off our One Ring. What will we do? I mean, if they just have, like, Dauthi into Thoughtseize number 2, like, then we're in trouble, but we're not there yet. 4 mana. That's a grief. And it does give us grief. So they're going to take Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, 1,000%. Because otherwise they're going to be facing down an Ulamog. So we basically are back to hoping to draw a threat. So opponent hits us for 2, we untap. We draw a Sylvan Scrying. So we still don't have anything to play, really. We got 2 options. We can either play a Boseiju and like cast a Sylvan Scrying. We can play with 3 options. We can play Power Plant and just pass, or we can play Blast Zone and maybe tick it up. And I'm leaning towards the Blast Zone play because if we end up just drawing dead again, having Blast Zone on 2 to hit like a Tide Hollow Sculler and the Bowmasters might be nice. So I think I'm going to go that route. We'll play the Blast Zone and pass the turn. So like if our opponent has another Vindicate or other land destruction, we're going to be in a world of hurt. Not that we can't recover, just that we probably can't recover in time. But playing out Power Plant against Tron, repeated land destruction is very difficult to beat, but repeated land destruction on the same Tron piece is especially brutal. So hiding this Power Plant in hand, there is some utility and value in doing that. Okay, so opponent plays a Voidwalker and a Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, so playing the Blast Zone that we could take it up to 2 was actually like the ideal play here. I'm really surprised that our opponent did that. Because like if we draw now, like we could draw like a Karn Great Creator and then play that and activate Blast Zone. So am I going to play out Boseiju who endures so I can cast a Sylvan Scrying? I might be able to do that next turn, actually, especially now that we have Urza's main. So let's go ahead and play Power Plant, and I'm just going to activate this now. Our opponent will have so many cards in hand because they're drawing so many cards off the one ring, but that takes out a significant amount of damage that we would otherwise be taking. Okay, opponent plays a Silent Clearing, plays another Voidwalker, 4 black mana, they play a Grief. Joke's on you, opponent. You should know I don't draw threats ever. So yeah, if you're playing against a Dauthi Voidwalker deck, Kano pro tip number 2, just don't draw threats. You'll win somehow, right? Especially like this, when it's completely not deserved. Okay. So, what can we do here? Our opponent almost certainly has exile removal. They tutored up a Sword of Fire and Ice, which tells me they're already holding Kaldra. Kaldra has haste, and they're only 1 mana away from playing Kaldra. So we can... We could try to empty our hand into an Ensnaring Bridge, but our opponent has drawn 9 cards. What is about to be 1 + 2 + 3 is 6. +4. Our opponent is going to have drawn 10 cards off the one ring. Let me see if I can't find a deck list for our opponent's deck. Stoneforge Mystic. Let's see if there's just an Orzhov deck running Stoneforge Mystic lately. Orzhov Scam. Oh, okay, so this is a popular deck. They play 1 Vindicate in the main and 1 Vindicate in the side. Out of everything else they play, is there anything I'm afraid of that could deal with an Ensnaring Bridge? And the answer is yes. They play Legions to Ashes. That's another one of those effects. So it's not safe, especially with our opponent having drawn that many cards, to bet it on Ensnaring Bridge. It might still be our only real out. The other option being we could wish for Oblivion Stone and then Oblivion Stone, but that kind of just delays rather than wins. We're going to play Urza's Mine. We're going to have 8 mana left over after casting Karn. So we could get Walking Ballista, and we could kill Voidwalker and 2 Griefs and still have a 1/1. I mean, that seems pretty decent. Actually, can we kill our opponent? Hang on a sec. Opponent is going to lose 3 life. They're going to go to 7. We're going to play Karn. We're going to have 8 mana. We're going to make a 4/4. For some reason, I was thinking the Ballista would be bigger than that. So we could kill, like, the 2 Griefs, or a Walker and the Grief, after blocking something. I was trying to see if we could get them to maybe die to life loss. So if we shoot them, even if they draw, they'll be alive at 2, and then we die on the backswing. So that doesn't work. Explosives. We could play explosives on 2. It doesn't really do anything. We could play a Sundering Titan. We just die to Griefs with Menace. Ballista, we can kill the Griefs. We can wish for a Wurmcoil, but we still just die to Griefs with Menace. Chalice, Crypt, Trinisphere, Pithing Needle. None of that does anything. So our options are play Mine, have 12 mana, Karn, Stone, blow up the world, or play Karn, wish for play Karn, wish for Ensnaring Bridge, play out Boseiju, Sylvan Scrying, fail to find. If we play Stone, we're guaranteed to survive. Oh shoot, I'm about to lose due to inactivity, apparently. Oh, I have 4 minutes remaining. Okay. So, if we play Stone, we're guaranteed to survive 1 more turn. If we play Karn into Ensnaring Bridge, we'll win if we don't get hit with Allegiance to Ashes in like the top 12 cards of our opponent's deck. I think I think I have to bet it on Ensnaring Bridge, actually. So let's go ahead and try to do that, I suppose. So cast Sylvan Scrying. Looks like I don't have any more lands in my deck. Play Karn. Oh, shoot. No, that doesn't change the Ballista math. I was going to say, playing Karn forces my opponent to activate the One Ring if they're going to do it. But they don't. I'm like 99% sure we're already dead, but I just needed to talk through all of those lines. I think this is my best bet. I'm pretty sure we still lose. Because our opponent has at least a Vindicate and at least a Legions to Ashes if they have a typical deck. Yeah, okay. So they drew so many cards that we were basically dead anyway. We could have gone with the Stone for 1 more card draw, in which case we'd have top decked an Ulamog and won. So, but you know, you can't use information like this to regret your decision. I still think the decision that I made was correct. The odds that we were going to draw a threat that would win the game after our opponent untaps with like 12 cards in hand versus the odds of my opponent having 1 of a 3 of in the top, or 2 of a 3 of effect in the top 20 cards of their deck, I would have bet on the Ensnaring Bridge there, because that way I at least had another opportunity to wish with Karn to maybe find something, which would have guaranteed some sort of effect, but we just didn't get there, so. Alright, so now that we know our opponent has a Douthie Voidwalkers, anything do we change? I don't think so. I think we just run it back. Alrighty, this is a mulligan. This is a mulligan. Yep, this is a mulligan. We're at 5 now. This is not a great hand. I'm going to 4. You know what? Let's go. Put back Karn, put back Warping Wail, put back Relic. Start Tower into Star. Is that better than Tower into Map? Yes. Yes, it is. So we're starting Star and not Map because the odds that we draw in 2 cards, either an Ancient Stirrings, a Star, a land, something like that, is higher than the odds of just drawing a land. Okay, opponent evokes a Grief. So they might actually be able to Mind Twist us here with a... Ah yes, the old Multitude! Well, let's see if the top deck gods smile upon Tron in the era of 2024. Well, we drew the One Ring. Pass the turn. Opponent attacks us for 4. We go to 16. And they play a Godless Shrine tapped. We untap. We draw an Ulamog. Pass the turn. Unfortunately, we are not drawing lands. Opponent snap attacks down to 12. I mean, if we draw land, we might actually get there. But that's 2 non-lands. Or that's 3 non-lands in a row, actually. Okay, we're going to 8. If my opponent cannot play another threat, if they can't increase their clock, and we draw land, we might have it. Maybe. Unfortunately, not a Tron land. We get Mana Tithe. Always good to see Mana Tithe. Thankfully, Oblivion Stone able to take the Mana Tithe from our opponent, so that potentially we drop a One Ring. The issue is we need to draw a Tron land into the One Ring, finding us our other Tron land. That's what has to happen for us to win, and it's not likely. Okay, so opponent hits us for 4, we go down to 4. We gotta draw Mine or Power Plant. We draw a Relic. That does not do it. Oh, opponent played Urborg, so... Oh no, because this takes 2 to cycle. I was gonna say, so if we hit Dismember, we might survive. The problem is, we can't hit Dismember and a land here. Yeah, so there was the Mine. That is unfortunate. We just didn't get there. So, if we had drawn Mine, we would have played Ring. Oh, it's not going to let me draw extra cards, is it? Okay. So if we had drawn Mine, we'd have played the Ring, we'd have tapped the Ring, we would have drawn the Relic, and then we would have had protection from everything, so our opponent couldn't kill us with the Grief. They probably would have just suited it up and then maybe played like a Voidwalker or something. So then we would have had 2 more draws the next turn to hit the Power Plant to cast Ulamog to wipe our opponent's threats. We would be at 3 from the first burden counter and then 1 from the second. So we would have like 1 attack with Ulamog to actually to win. Unfortunately, we just didn't draw the lands. And I mean, that was the risk. We had 17 lands in this list, so it's not quite as many as I'm used to playing with. So I'll see you guys in round 3. Alrighty, welcome to round 3. That's a mulligan. We can definitely do better on 6. Natural Tron into 1 ring plus Ulamog? Yeah, sure, we'll keep. We'll put back Ancient Stirrings, we'll keep the Boseiju. That potentially allows us to get to a... what would you call it? Any Tron land then allows us a turn 5 Ulamog. Alright, opponent plays Power Plant, so they are also Tron. We draw Star, so play Power Plant, play Star. We are probably playing Boseiju off of Star next turn into a 1 ring. Blue Tron, interesting. Okay. Alright, that's fine. So we draw a forest. Let's play a tower. Play the 1 ring. Opponent forces pitching Subtlety. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So I didn't go for an immediate Boseiju because I'm not sure if my opponent plays... I wasn't sure if they played a lot of double blue spells, but I mean, Lorien Revealed doesn't really count when it island cycles. They go for the second Tron land. So if I Boseiju them now, I potentially allow them to have a Force of Negation, just hard cast on my turn. So let's wait and see what we draw. We draw a Wurmcoil Engine. So I'm going to sack Star for green. We get another 1 ring. I believe that is better than casting Wurmcoil. So we'll play the 1 ring, draw some cards. We're getting Oblivion Stone. Let's play a forest. We have 4 mana. I'm just going to Boseiju and take them off the Tron. Because now we have 2 draws to hit another Tron land of any kind, and if we cast an Ulamog, even if they counter it, we should be in a position where we can win. Okay, opponent plays Karn, Great Creator, and they're wishing. Let's see what they get. Liquimetal Coating. Okay, we untap, we lose a life, and we draw the Power Plant. Perfect. Ulamog, take out Karn and an island. And we win. Okay, this is definitely a Veil of Summer matchup. I think Relic is going to be pretty irrelevant. I'm actually going to cut a Dismember and keep a Relic in, just as additional draw power. What does Blue Tron play for threats? I can't imagine they play dismemberable cards. Let's see. Let's look up a recent Blue Tron list. They do play Tidebinder. At least this one does. Walking Ballista, we did see Subtlety. Then there's the possibility for like some Trinket Mages. They play a Manland. Couple of the wishable threats we can dismember. Okay, I think this this matchup is in their favor though, because they're going to have access to cards like Spreading Seas. Spreading Seas and Tidebinder are pretty difficult to overcome. This is not a good hand. We're going to mulligan. This is also not a good hand. We're going to 5. We're going to 4. All right, we're keeping 4. So let's get rid of Stone, Wail, and Sphere. Okay, opponent starts Hall of Storm Giants into an Expedition map. We untap, we draw Wurmcoil Engine. That is a threat, even if it's not the best threat. We're going to start Mine into map, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Mine. We untap. We draw a Dismember. So we play Power Plant. We're going to pass to our end step to see if they activate map. I don't think they have like a Trick Bind. Okay. We're going to go ahead and map for Tower. And we're going to do that because Tidebinder is a card that exists in Magic the Gathering that this deck might play. Okay, opponent went and fetched a Power Plant. We untap. We draw Oblivion Stone. Play a Tower. Cast a Wurmcoil Engine. Okay, opponent remands. So we'll play a Star. And so our opponent is going to have the initiative on playing the big threat first. Okay, Karn, Great Creator. That makes our lives significantly more difficult, especially because now they're going to get Liquimetal Coating and we're going to be sad. There's just no way they don't, right? Like, they get Mindslaver. I guess Mindslaver would be better. Unfortunately, we can't play the Stirrings. We can't activate the O Stone, even if we did. So we're just going to run out this Wurmcoil Engine. Opponent has another remand. Alright. We're probably dead. We're not holding anything that's going to reveal a bunch of information for our opponent. So we might live through a Mindslaver. Maybe. I mean, if they get Coating, though, we're already going to be down to Tron land. And then we basically have to top deck Karn, Great Creator, and then Tron land. Okay, so opponent is taking control of our turn. They wished for Walking Ballista. We draw Walking Ballista. They cast Ballista for 0. And then, what, tap our lands and pass? Yep. Okay. Opponent untaps. Plays an island. Upticks Karn to 2, targeting nothing. 6 mana, they play Ballista on 3, Island Cycle, Lorien Revealed. And we untap. We draw Mine. So I guess let's just Dismember. Okay, opponent's gonna ping. Ping. Okay. We'll play an Urza's Mine. Then play Wurmcoil. Okay, opponent has a Subtlety. So they hardcast Subtlety. Wurmcoil, we're going to go ahead and put on the bottom. It's not really a great threat in this matchup anyway. Opponent upticks Karn to 3. I'm pretty sure they just animate Hall of the Storm Giants, though, and then we're dead? No, they're going to make sure we don't draw anything. Okay. I mean, we can try. I don't think this does anything. There's no way our opponent with the 1 ring active has not drawn some sort of counter. Alright, second Subtlety. Opponent was just playing it real safe. Alright. We run it back and hope that being on the play with a good hand happens. And that's pretty much it. I don't think we have anything else that we'd change out. Opponent doesn't really play sorceries other than Lorien Revealed, which they don't cast. It doesn't kill anything. Maybe it accelerates us. It's pretty bad. I think I'm going to drop a Warping Wail for Relic, just to have a little more cycling in the deck. I still think 2 Dismembers is fine. Okay, we'll play first. Maybe we should have had a Dismember instead of an Oblivion Stone, but I'm going to keep this. We've got a pretty good chance of drawing another Tron land, so we're going to start with Power Plant into Chromatic Star. Pass the turn. Opponent also kept 7. They lead on mine and pass. We draw Dismember. Let's go ahead and cycle for green. See what we draw. The One Ring. Play Tower, play Sphere. I'm fine cracking the Sphere here because I do have a forest if I actually want it. We're going to play Relic. Alright, pass the turn. We did not get to our Tron land yet. Okay, opponent island cycles. Stop on their upkeep, exile it from the grave. Pretty sure that doesn't matter, but I like doing it even when it doesn't matter. Opponent plays an island, so they're now representing... I don't even know if they play Condescend, actually. They probably just play Remand now. Okay, we draw another forest. So play a forest, we're going to pass the turn. Opponent plays a Minamo, School at the Water's Edge, into an Expedition map. I'm going to go ahead and crack Relic. And we draw an Urza's Mine, which is excellent, because our opponent is only going to have one potential counterspell here. Let's go ahead and play the One Ring. Opponent forces... pitching Repeal. So now the question is, do we show them that we have Karn, or do we try to resolve the One Ring? And I think the answer is the One Ring. And the reason that I say that is because next turn, if... Okay, opponent Condescends for 1, so they still do play Condescend. The One Ring, if it resolves earlier, is better. If our opponent has to crack map on their turn, and then they only have, like... a single remand left. We can actually play Karn twice, and if we draw a Tron land, we could then Karn, remanded, then Karn, and then Liquimetal Coating, but we didn't draw the Tron land. So let's start by Sylvan Scrying. This shouldn't draw any action from our opponent. Let's get another tower. Play the tower. Play Karn. Opponent has a Force of Negation. Okay. And they hard cast it. So now we just need to draw anything. Well, anything non-inclusive Urza's Tower. Okay. So opponent kept a hand that had just action in the form of counterspells, no threats. But I mean, we have Ulamog mana. And we can beat a Condescend... Oh, whoops. That's way too much. So we're going to try and just stick Ugin here. I mean, if they have Subtlety now, we can just stick Ugin on top and dismember Subtlety. Ugin's not our best threat versus them, but... I'm not sure what else we would do. This opponent is going to crack map, get a Tron land. They then pass, we untap, we draw Ugin. I mean, if our opponent had like a second Subtlety, I'm not sure if I would put Ugin back on top again. Okay, they have Force Negation, so we don't have to think about that for too long. I'm going to hold this Forest in hand. I'm going to make them think I've got something else that's big, like a Wurmcoil Engine. I was trying to think of what would be worse than Ugin to cast, but maybe still reasonable. Alright, Karn Great Creator is not a good sign. Liquimetal Coating takes us off of Tron. They can't play it this turn if that's what they got. They wished for the One Ring. Okay, so we need a threat. That is not a threat. We play Chromatic Sphere, which we can't activate. Because I always forget that Karn is also a Null Rod. So we have to pass. Opponent is going to land their One Ring. Oh gosh, and they've got Tron. Okay, opponent casts the One Ring. They tap it, and they draw a card. Like, we have to hit like an Ulamog off the top. Opponent wishes for... What are they wishing for? Liquimetal Coating. And they play it. But unless they have a second Karn Great Creator, they can't take us off Tron. So we gotta draw like Ulamog this turn. They shut off a tower. Okay, we draw the One Ring, which is pretty good. Except for the fact that it's awful because we can't tap it. You gain protection from everything. That doesn't stop them from blowing up a Tron land, though. That would leave us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lands. Stops us from getting Mindslavered for a turn, but... Oh, that's awful. We needed it a turn ago. And we did not... Well, actually, we needed it long before that. Yeah, this is not a matchup that is in our favor. Let's go ahead and just play out the other forests, because they're going to start blowing up lands. Yeah, Karn Great Creator versus this build of Tron is pretty good, because, like... So... Playing the One Ring over something like Karn 7 or a big colorless Planeswalker like Ugin 6 or Ugin 8 leaves you more susceptible to Karn Great Creator. So it makes Tron versus Tron, Green Tron versus Green Tron, or Green Tron versus Blue Tron more skewed in favor of whoever gets to KGC first. Because then your One Ring isn't even your recovery strategy. I don't know what they just did. Oh, they blew up Power Plant with Liquimetal Coating, then played another Karn. And they're wishing for something else. It's going to be a big old Ballista. Okay, they play it. It's a 3/3. I mean, we can play a 3/3 Ballista, but we can't ping their Karn down, so we're just going to die. And our opponent has a Remand. Yeah, because they're going to blow up mine, so we can't put Ballista on 3, but we can't cast any threat other than Karn Great Creator, which they're going to have a counter spell for because they've had an active One Ring, so... Gonna see what I draw for next turn, but I'm pretty willing to say we're just dead. Especially if this is Mindslaver, I'm just going to concede, because we can't beat that. Nope, they're just sticking counters on Ballista. Okay, opponent hits us for 6. We go to 10. We untap, and we draw Blast Zone. That doesn't do anything. Because we can't get Blast Zone to 2 to stop coding, and we're just going to die to Ballista, so... Alright, that's game. That's frustrating. There's 2 matches right in a row where both matches, the Black-White Hate Bear Hand Hate deck, we were very close to winning. And Bluetron there, we were also very close to winning. It's kind of just unfortunate that our opponent had a combination of cards that was better than our combination of cards, but I think that's how those matchups are likely to play out. They're definitely winnable, but I think they're skewed in our opponent's favor, and I think Bluetron, in the Bluetron versus Greentron matchup, I think Bluetron is favored for that reason. So, alright, I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, welcome to round 4. I would like to play first, and I mean, if this was Sphere or Star, we would definitely have turn 3 Tron. As it's right now looking like turn 4, I think this is reasonable, especially because any land gets us to Karn Great Creator, so I'm going to keep this. Relic's also good versus a few different decks that are exploiting the graveyard, so having one out early is good. Opponent is mulliganed from 7 to 6, 6 to 5. We kept 7, so... Alright, they mulligan to 5. We're going to start Power Plant Relic. Pass the turn. Opponent going to play Forest. Suspend Crashing Footfalls. Okay, so we know what we're playing against anyway. We draw Tower. So we can either play Forest and search up Mine, or we can crack Relic. I think I'm willing to go for the slower Tron here. I think that'll be fine. So we tutor up Urza's Mine, pass the turn. Footfalls ticks down to 3. They play Misty. We untap. We draw Oblivion Stone. So play Mine. Play Oblivion Stone. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Misty. Probably gets a Steam Vent. Or a Tri-land or something. Like a Ketria Triome. They just get an island. Alright. They're going to Boseiju O Stone. So we're going to get a forest. I'm going to go ahead and crack Relic. We draw the One Ring, which is a pretty good draw. Opponent plays a Mountain and passes. And we draw an Ulamog. So, to play a tower, we are at 9 mana. I think the play is just cast the One Ring. If they have a counterspell, like Mystical Dispute, I think they would... Or not Mystical Dispute. If they had Force of Negation, they would probably use it there. Okay, let's draw a card. We draw a Sphere. So let's play Karn Great Creator. I guess I probably should have started with Karn Great Creator, because if they did have a Mystical Dispute, we needed to do that first. Let's get a Chalice. Play Chalice on 0. They're going to Violent Outburst, so they're going to 2 4/4s. Oh, okay, I see. It didn't order the cards the right way. For some reason, I thought they were casting a Subtlety, and I was like, that doesn't work. That's not how that works, Moto. Okay, so they get a couple Rhino tokens, and we're going to go ahead and play a Chromatic Sphere. So our opponent can attack and kill Karn here. That's going to be fine. We're going to be following it up with an Ulamog, so that'll be pretty brutal. So opponent's going to attack and kill Karn. Karn down. We untap, we lose a life. They're going to ice our tower. Let's go ahead and draw some cards. We can cycle Sphere now. I don't think that really does anything, but we can. Okay. So we go to our main phase. We draw another The One Ring. So we're still at 9 mana. We can't play Ulamog. I guess that means we just play O-Stone and crack it after their Footfalls gets thrown into our Chalice. Okay, so they're going to cast Footfalls. I'm fine blowing up my own Chalice here because I'm going to follow this up with Ulamog. And it's not like we lose our One Ring, because it's indestructible. So if they have another Cascade spell and can hit another Footfalls, that's fine. Because at this point, we're going to have a threat that will answer that. Okay. So our opponent does not make any land drops. We draw an Ancient Stirrings. So let's just go ahead and Ulamog and take out their island and their forest. Okay. That's game 1. I feel like we want Veils. We got Forced. Yeah, we want Veils. Relic, probably not going to do much. Dismember can kill a token, but that's extremely painful. Warping Wail can actually counter Crashing Footfalls, so we definitely want to keep Warping Wail in. And Oblivion Stone is probably our preferred kill spell for Crashing Footfalls, if you don't count Ulamog as a kill spell. Which, I mean, he technically is, but he also wins the game, so, like, you know. Alright, opponent will be on the play. This hand is awful. 1 land, no filtering, 3 Oblivion Stones. Let's just, yeah, let's mulligan. 2 of the same Tron land, a Boseiju, a Dismember, an Oblivion Stone. This hand is reasonable, like, on the very low end of reasonable, but it's still reasonable. Our opponent also mulliganed to 6. They're deciding whether to keep... They keep 6. I think I'm going to go to 5. Alright, yeah. This is natural Tron, as long as Sylvan Scrying resolves. So we will put back Ancient Stirring and an O-Stone. A Blowstone. Oh my goodness. I can't speak English. I can barely read. We untap. We draw Oblivion Stone. Play Power Plant, play Sphere. Pass the turn. I was going to say Oblivion and then say O-Stone, but I cut Oblivion short and then just said Stone. Every day my beard gains nutrients from my brain and I get a little dumber. Alright, we're just going to go for it. Crack Sphere for green. We draw Ancient Stirrings, cast Sylvan Scrying. Do you have a force? They do. Okay, so Sylvan Scrying down. They pitched Tishana's Tidebinder, so they are playing it. Opponent untaps and passes. We draw Veil of Summer, pass. Opponent stuck on 2 land, we're stuck on 2 land. Opponent passes again. We draw Wurmcoil, we pass again. Ah yes, the old nothing's happening standoff. Opponent finds a Gemstone Caverns, casts a Shardless Agent. So they are putting 10 power on them. If we could rip a tower right off the top, that'd be great. We don't. Pass the turn. Yeah, I mean, if we draw a tower, we can maybe play the One Ring and survive. Unlikely, though. Opponent doesn't cast anything else. We draw a Forest, which leaves us dead. Yeah, we can't play anything of any consequence, so we will go on to Game 3. Game 3. I think we're going to keep the same configuration and run it back. Alright, here we are. Game 3. We would like to play first. Expedition map, Boseiju, Veil, Sylvan Scrying, Dismember, Karn. I think I'm going to keep this. We have green, we have Sylvan Scrying, so we can maybe protect something. We might be able to draw a Tron land naturally, otherwise we have 2 tutors, which is good. We do have to be careful about, obviously, Tidebinders and counter spells, ice, etc. So, we'll see. Opponent is starting with a Gemstone Caverns in play. I apologize if you can hear any rumbling. We're currently doing laundry. And my office, this wall in front of my face, is the adjacent wall to the laundry room, which is upstairs. My office is upstairs, so... Oh, didn't mean to open Discord. Alright, pass the turn. So, they kept a 6-card hand, they pitched a Forest to Gemstone Caverns. I had something I was going to say about Gemstone Caverns, and I've thrown myself off, and I don't remember what it is now. Okay, we draw an Oblivion Stone, so let's play Boseiju, and I think we're going to try a Sylvan Scrying. They either have to force this, or they have to have a Tidebinder, and if they have a Tidebinder, we have Dismember for activating map, is what I'm saying. Rather than crack map this turn and leave myself more open to a counterspell the following turn for Sylvan Scrying. Okay, they have a force. And they pitched Flame of Anor. Anor? I have no idea how to pronounce that. Okay, so opponent has 2 cards in hand. And I mean, if it's like land cascade spell, that's their combo. Like, can't be upset about that. That's just them having it. They fetch Wooded Foothills, they get a Ketria Triome. So they effectively have 2 rainbow lands for themselves. And they pass. We untap. We draw Dismember. They did not hit land number 3. So we're going to go ahead and, I think, just go get like a power plant. Not 100% sure it matters. We do have 2 Dismembers now. Opponent untaps. They're going to suspend Footfalls. Interesting. Any land gets us to Karn, Great Creator, which would be fantastic. I think otherwise we're probably playing Oblivion Stone. That's a map. So, play a map. And I left these 2 mana up because maybe I needed to Veil. Unlikely. Let's go get an Urza's Mine. Play an Urza's Mine. And pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Crashing Footfalls ticks down to 3. They find an Odawara. It looks like they're casting a spell. They're thinking about it. If this is a Shardless agent, do we Dismember? It is a Blood Moon. So opponent has Blood Mooned themselves out of the game as well as us. Except, joke's on you, opponent, our deck is colorless. Play Karn. And let's get a Chalice of the Void. Play Chalice on 0. Pass the turn. Crashing Footfalls ticks down to 2. We untap. We draw Warping Wail. Play Chromatic Star. Do we wish for anything here? Yeah, I think we just get Liquimetal Coating, and we tick Karn down to 1. If our opponent has fire, that's fine. Like, if they have anything else, we can probably Veil. I'm not going to run Liquimetal Coating out there, though. I want to have access to Warping Wail, in case our opponent like draws a forest and then Violent Outbursts. Alright, opponent concedes. So we are 2-2 going into round 5, and I will see you there. And welcome to round 5. Versus an unknown opponent playing Gigantha. Alright, which deck is it playing Gigantha again? I know Tron did at one point. I think there was like a Shadow deck that did for a while. What's playing it in Modern? Domain Zoo, Tamer Prowess, Jund Saga, Generic Ragavan, and Death Shadow are the terms that Goldfish has. So that could be anything. We're just going to mulligan. We're going to go to 5. It's somehow worse. Do I keep a hand with 2 forests? Or do I go to 4? I think I go to 4. Alright. We're going to put back Mine, Ballista, Hunger, and keep Mine, Power Plant, Sundering Scrying. Maybe I should have kept the Ballista over one of those, but I think I would rather have the consistency tools. Dragon's Rage Channeler. It looks like this is probably like Domain Zoo or something. So we start Mine, pass the turn. Opponent. Okay, they played Dragon's Rage Channeler, and then they are Abundant Harvesting, putting a Lava Dart into the grave. They chose land, so they get a Scalding Tarn. They flipped over an Underworld Breach. That's good to know, into a Swift Spear. So this is just like that generic aggro deck that uses Underworld Breach as a way to play Bauble 3 times to try and kill you with like prowess triggers. So this is... It's just some sort of aggro deck, basically. A very good aggro deck in terms of strength, but kind of boring in my opinion. So we're going to take 5. We go to 15. We untap, they draw a card off of Bauble. We draw our 3rd Urza's Power Plant, so play Power Plant, pass the turn. Unfortunately, it looks like we're losing this game simply because we mulled to 4. The hopes were to draw like Tower Threat off the top. At this point in time, if we drew a Sphere or a Star, we would be in a pretty good position. Opponent plays Reckless Impulse, exiling Mishra's Bauble and... what is that, Questing Druid off the top? Questing Druid, they just play as another Reckless Impulse effect and then actually splash green for the front half. I dislike Prowess. I dislike Prowess because it rewards you for playing a ton of tiny spells, which Modern is already rewarded enough for doing. I think that's uninteresting, but like it's a mechanic for the game, so I guess, you know, it's whatever. I'm not a Magic designer. We're down to 5. Opponent gets to draw another card. We draw Karn Great Creator. And we're going to go ahead and scoop it up, because any spell and we die, so... versus aggro. I could put Chalice in the main. Just drop Chalice on 0 or 1. Actually, 1, because 0, they still get the prowess triggers. It reminds me of the time I died to a prowess aggro deck a while back, like a long while back. I played Chalice on 0... and they had enough Mishra's Baubles and Gut Shots. It was with the clever Lumimancer deck, Spellcraft, the other one, Magecraft. The other one that's like +2/+2 prowess on the clever Lumimancer. I don't remember the name of the mechanic, but I died to it, even though I countered every single spell they played other than the clever Lumimancer, just because they had enough prowess triggers to kill me, which was goofy. All right, we're just gonna run it back. We're going to go ahead and try and play first. That's going to be a mulligan. That's going to be a mulligan. I mean, it's Tron alongside a Dismember. I'm going to keep the second tower over the Boseiju because maybe we draw an Ulamog and turn 4 Ulamog is fast enough. I don't know, we'll see. So we start mine into map with 2 towers and the Dismember still in hand. Opponent starts Arid Mesa into Stomping Grounds with a Soulscar Mage. Did they mulligan? They kept 7, okay. So we untap, we draw Karn, play tower, map for power plant. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Scalding Tarn, crack Scalding Tarn for a mountain, Dragon's Rage Channeler, and Soulscar Mage. Okay. They hit us for 1. Unfortunately, we don't have any colored mana, so we can't Engineered Explosives their whole board away, which would be glorious, by wishing it off of Karn. We draw a second Karn, so this is interesting. I think the correct pick here is to go get Trinisphere to drastically limit what they're able to do. The alternative is to get something like, I guess, Oblivion Stone, but I don't think that's necessary. Yeah, we'll get Trinisphere. Because that way they can't just like, I've got 10 free spells in my hand, I guess you're dead. They're going to be able to cast one thing if they have another land. They can swing in and kill Karn right away, but we're going to follow up with another Karn, and we're going to be getting a Wurmcoil Engine while we're on 10 mana, unless we draw Ulamog. We draw Ulamog, we just take out 2 of their lands, and then they can't play any cards anymore. 3 mana, the old 3 mana Lightning Bolt to kill Karn. You got it. Opponent getting to Surveil. They throw Questing Druid into the grave. They have 3 card types, so no Delirium yet. They hit us for 5. We go to 4. We untap, we draw another Urza's Mine, so we play another tower. Play another Karn. We could get Walking Ballista and kill 2 of their threats. We could get Sundering Titan and just completely take them out of the game, but that's not until next turn. Yeah, let's get Wurmcoil Engine. They should struggle to kill Wurmcoil Engine, especially only casting 1 spell a turn. Without Delirium, they can't attack and kill Karn while holding back stuff to block. And I mean, they can shrink Wurmcoil Engine if they have another Bolt, but unless they have like an Abrade or... I mean, without Delirium, they would have to basically cast Unholy Heat and hope that there's like a sorcery or a Mishra's Bauble on top of their deck, because they only have land creature instant in their grave. I mean, even then we would still have the 2 tokens left over, but that would allow them to actually kill Karn while dealing with the front half of Wurmcoil. Alright, so they are going to Lava Dart Wurmcoil Engine to shrink it. They get to Surveil. They leave it on top. Wurmcoil becomes a 5/5. They can swing everything at Karn to kill Karn, but they don't. Which I think means they're dead. So now we just go get Sundering Titan, and they're not allowed to play the game anymore. Alright, that's game win. Going into game 3. Yeah, I think last game was indicative of why we leave Wurmcoil in the side. So I don't want to bring in the 3rd Wurmcoil. That's like the only other configuration change that maybe I would make. But this is turn 3 Tron. We have Warping Wail, so I'm going to keep this. Also, Trinisphere 3-ball is a great Magic card for exactly that reason. It's why it's restricted in Vintage, because Broken Artifact mana playing 3-ball fast is not fun for people to play against. Opponent starts Bauble himself, fetch, so they didn't like what they saw on top. I believe they mulliganed. Does that math work out right? Let me see. They mulliganed to 6, we kept 7. So we're going to go ahead and start tower, play star. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays mountain into Ren's Resolve. Okay, we untap. We draw a forest, so play mine, sack star for green, draw a power plant, Sylvan Scrying, and let's get another power plant. Since we're holding a forest, like, I could have gotten Blast Zone, but if my opponent has a way to interact with one land, I don't want them to think I have a single of any land. Or I want them to think use the spell to kill the land you tutor for. That's what I would prefer that they think. Okay, we untap. We draw a mine. So I think what I'm going to do this turn is Warping Wail to kill Soulscar Mage and Ancient Stirrings, but other order. We have nothing to play Power Plant and cast, so Ancient Stirrings will hopefully find us some threat that will do something. Karn is one of those threats, so let's take Karn. Rest of the bottom, and we're going to Warping Wail to exile Soulscar Mage. Okay, opponent has a mutagenic growth to save it. That saves us 3 damage. Just casting the Warping Wail on our turn and not theirs. Okay, they have another Reckless Impulse. Lots of these 2-mana red draw 2 effects. They hit Dragon's Rage Channeler and another Ren's Resolve. So they hit us for 6. And we're going to have 8 mana and 2 Karn Great Creators. So, well, we're definitely playing one of them. We don't. This version doesn't have a 1 ring in the side. Otherwise, that'd be a pretty reasonable grab here. All their stuff costs 1, so I guess we're gonna get an Engineered Explosives here and play it on 1. Because nothing else that we have the mana for really does anything, so play Engineered Explosives. Blow up the Prowess guys. Pass the turn. I mean, it's doubtful that they had a way that they could save their guys, so, like, probably just waiting to do that on my opponent's turn was better. But, I mean, I guess if they're playing an Alpine then doing that was definitely better, but I'm not used to playing Magic against these opponents. So opponent is going to Alpine Moon and probably name Tower. So we are going from 8 mana to 5 mana. Yep, okay. They bolt Karn to make a 7/7. We untap. And I believe that, yeah, because it loses, lands lose all types and abilities. Okay. So, what can we do here with 5 mana? I mean, opponent's got 3 cards in hand. We are dead on attack to their Questing Druid, so I probably just threw the game. Although, I mean, I would have had to blow it up prior to attacks. Would I have? Opponent could have held the Alpine Moon in hand and held the land to play it. So I would not have had any indication to hold the Engineered Explosives. Yeah, and that comes from inexperience for the current metagame and playing against Alpine Moon, which tells me that's not surprising if Saga is common. So we'll play another tower. We have 5 mana. I think the only thing we can do is, at this point, I have nothing in exile, so we can play Karn and play Haywire Mite. But that's really it. And like we can just block with Haywire Mite. If they bolt Haywire Mite, we gain 2, go up to 9, and they have 8 damage. So like if they have a removal spell and nothing else, we survive. And if they don't have any removal spells, we survive. So, and if we untap with Karn alive, then we... Oh, we're just dead because their kill spell was Destructive Revelry, which counteracts the 2 life we gain by making us lose 2 life, and they hit us for 8. Well, dang. 2-1, 1-2, 1-2, 2-1, 1-2. So, I think out of all of those, any single match we played, was definitely winnable. Some of them, like the Crashing Footfalls matchup, matters if you go first or second, and whether you get 2 attempts on the play or 2 attempts on the draw. Blue Tron, I think this league could have very easily been a 4-1. Blue Tron being the only deck that I think I would have really, really struggled with, like to actually legitimately call it a win without just having like crazy hands both games and my opponent having mediocre hands. I have no doubt we could have beaten the black-white Stoneblade or Scam deck or whatever it was. The aggro deck is also a little bit suspect. I just jumped the gun with the engineered explosives, so I think a more experienced player in the current metagame would have had an easier time than I did. And then the other 2 matches we won. So yeah, we went 2 and 3. We could have gone 4 and 1. This list is fine. I think maybe cutting down to 3 Oblivion Stones or 3 Dismembers and putting the 4th Chromatic Star in to have 8 of this effect is pretty high. Also reasonable would be another land. I think a 4th Forest would be reasonable, or a Yavimaya, especially if you're playing with like Force of Vigor in the side. I think that would be completely reasonable. Yavimaya does make things like Sundering Titan better, both when you cast it and when your opponent casts it, so that's something to be aware of if you were to play this or a similar list. I don't think really... I've seen arguments about whether the One Ring should be played of as a 4 of in the main deck or 3 and then 1 in the side because you have Karn. And I think 3 and 1 is probably more reasonable. And the reason that I say that, not just because we got bad beats for our opponent getting Karn Great Creator in the Blue-Tron matchup, but I think it's reasonable because you want a diverse wish board, like as many different powerful effects to exploit Karn Great Creator as much as possible. And the One Ring is one of those effects that is extremely powerful. Because it buys you a turn, it's effectively a time warp. Although generally, if you play Karn and you wish for the One Ring, Karn is going to die. That tends to be fine because you're going to draw a card and then draw 2 cards, so you're effectively like casting a like Jace's Concentration or whatever it is, the 5 mana draw 3 cards, or Jace's Ingenuity. Concentrate, I think, is the 4 mana draw 3. You're effectively casting a Concentrate, you draw 3 cards, that buys you a turn at Fogs, but your Planeswalker is going to die. The thing that I really miss in this list is having Karn 7, and I'm not just like being a boomer or nostalgic for, the version of Tron that I last played. I legitimately think that having access to 7 mana Karn as an answer for an opponent's One Ring, as an answer for generic permanent that's causing you problems. Like, I think that having 1 in the main deck is better than playing 4 rings. I think playing 3 rings and then 1 in the side to make space for a Karn 7 in the main deck is much better. I have always been very vocal about keeping 4 Karn 7s in the deck. I talked about the benefits of lowering Tron's mana curve with something like the One Ring, but in the current metagame, especially with the printing of Tishana's Tidebinder, the few games of Modern that I've played, that card has been extremely relevant because it introduced a counterplay to the One Ring that you no longer have the best card advantage engine and stabilization engine in the form of the ring at no cost. The fact that Tishana's Tidebinder exists means that there is a cost to playing and casting the card, especially because its ability is an enters the battlefield ability. I think Moto was bugged. I saw some people talking about it today. I don't know if it's been fixed, but like if you counter Ulamog's cast trigger or any of the Eldrazi's cast trigger with Tidebinder, they enter with no abilities, which is not how that interaction should work because you're countering the ability of something that isn't a permanent yet. So I think Tishana's Tidebinder on Moto is actually more powerful than it's supposed to be. But playing the One Ring, because it's an enters the battlefield trigger that gives you the protection, if your opponent Tishana's Tidebinder's that, you can tap it in response to draw a card, But then you just played a 4-mana Whispers of the Muse, and that's all you did. And then it's dead on board until you get rid of their creature. So the fact that counterplay for this card now exists means that it is not the end-all be-all. If you're trying to play longer than turn 4, you must play this card. Now, if you're trying to play a game that's going to go longer than turn 4, I still strongly suggest you play the One Ring, but there is more calculus to be done to make sure that you're still playing like the optimal list. I have it on record. It's in my Discord. It's in a couple of other Discords that when the One Ring was printed, everyone was screaming, "Oh, it's gonna be banned! It's too good!" And I said it's not gonna be banned. And if it gets banned, it wouldn't be banned until at least this January, the month that I am now in. And this was when it was printed, so whenever Lord of the Rings came out. And my prediction was accurate. I'm very, very proud. So not that that means anything, but I'm very happy that I guessed right, and my rationale seemed sound. So I still wish that they would ban a lot more of the free effects in Modern, but I had a lot of fun. It was a little disappointing to lose a couple of the ways that I did, but it was comfortable knowing that like Green Tron is still playable. It's still a good deck. It's still reasonable. It's still consistent. I haven't played enough to know what the best Green Tron configuration is right now. I suspect like just doing this, swapping one of these into the side and playing a Karn 7 with this exact list would make this list better. And maybe dropping a Dismember or an O-Stone for, like I said, either another land or another star would probably make the deck better, although I'm less certain on that. I don't know. I look forward to playing more, and I will when I have time, but I figured since the All Access token was still going and I didn't have all the cards yet, it would be remiss of me if I missed the opportunity to play Tron for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment down in the comment section below. Tell me how I did. I feel like I still got it, which is pretty impressive. I'm very happy to see that the lines for Tron have not changed that much and that it's still viable. Because for a while I felt like it was unplayable. So I'm happy to see that it's not. So yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye!